Cheers and welcome to Bitter Reality Brewing. Yes, we're brewing on the iGulu. That's right, the iGulu. And I'm gonna try to keep this video very, very simple, clean, straightforward for anyone who has never brewed before. Hey, I've never brewed before on the iGulu. I've brewed hundreds and hundreds of batches, but never on the iGulu. So this is my first batch. So yeah, I have a little anxiety, I'm a little nervous. And I want to make sure I do everything right, and I want to make sure that I show to you everything correct. So we're going to do the pale ale, which is assumed kind of like a mildly hoppy IPA, but instead it's toned way down. It's got the hops, it's got a little bitter, but everything's a little more subdued. ABV's a little lower usually. So it's just a great all-around beer for someone who doesn't mind a little bitter and they really like the aromatics of the hops. So yeah, and we're using mosaic hops, which is really cool. So before I jump into all this, I'm gonna show you a bunch of settings on here, and then we're gonna brew. But before I do that, don't forget, like, subscribe, keep sharing. Let me know in the comments if you actually are an iGulu owner or you've ordered one. I've had a few people chime in, and that's awesome, and I appreciate it because I haven't seen any videos out there, of course, yet for brewing on the iGulu. So hopefully this will be the first one out there of many in the future. After this, we will have 3 more beer batches, and then I'm looking to do a lot of creative things. So let's get going. Let's jump into this. I'm gonna move this right up into the camera so you can look right at it and understand everything, and I'll narrate through it. Okay, when you first turn on the iGulu, you present it with this. You see your Wi-Fi and your settings. You also see fermentation. And you can scroll through here. You have cooler, you have toolkits, and you have settings. I prefer to go to settings first. You go here, you can set your units. So your pressure, you got bar, PSI, or MPa. I'm used to PSI, so I'm going PSI. For temperature, Fahrenheit or Celsius. I'm set to Fahrenheit. You just touch it and say yes. And then you swipe that way to make it go away. Your connection, your language, system update, reset, about. Currently, languages appears to only support English and Chinese, but there will be more languages, I'm assuming, and that is an assumption. So come on down here. Toolkits, your CO2 or air pump. Currently we have the CO2 connected, and I'm gonna leave that for a minute, but I'm assuming I can, let's see here. Yeah, I don't wanna turn that on yet. It didn't say to do that in the brewing, so I'm gonna leave that alone. Like I said, it's my first brew. Cooler, so you can adjust the temperatures. If I go in here, yeah, look, it shows all kinds of different systems. I guess that's it. Swipe back, we'll go back down, and we have fermentation. And we can do different types of custom fermentation. But that's not what we're gonna do. Instead, what we're gonna do is we're gonna scan this little RFID over here, and instantly we get pale ale, which is what we're gonna be brewing. So I say, next. It tells me it's gonna be 1 day at 60 degrees Fahrenheit, then it's gonna go to 2 days at 64, 3 days at 68, and then it's gonna cold crash it for 3 days. And we can hit brew. I don't wanna do that because I have to get everything ready and put it in there first. So I'm gonna swipe back for now, swipe back, exit. And we're gonna leave that alone for right now. Let's do the brew and then we can get back to this. Okay, hopefully that was very informative. What I've found on the phone really just kind of leads you into this. Everything's right there on the touchscreen. You really don't have to do anything else. A couple items before we get into the brew is you will not need this connector. You will not need this connector, so you can set those aside. What will you need? Of course, your iGulu keg, liquid dispensing tube, and your clamp to help lock everything in place. The little white thing, that's a pressure piece, and I'll go over that to it's a restrictor, should we say. But we'll go over this and I'll show you how to install that also, okay? So before we brew in this, you need to clean it, and you need to clean it really well. Do not use anything with chlorine. Preferably don't use anything that's really typical household cleaners that you would use on dishes and things like that. You can buy, and I'll put links down below on things you can get off Amazon, very inexpensive. One is a one-step oxygen cleaner. It just goes in, it helps to make sure that there's nothing that's gotten in there, cleans it out. I would rinse it, maybe do it twice the very first time. After that, you should be good. but definitely clean it. You're gonna wanna clean everything. You're gonna wanna clean the hose, tubing, everything. In home brewing, the biggest and the most important thing is sanitation. You're almost never gonna get anything sterile. That's a lot harder, but sanitation is something around 99%. And cleaning things is critical because you can go to all this work, and if you have some sort of contamination in there, it doesn't matter what kind of brew system you use, it's not gonna taste good, it's gonna come out really nasty, and you don't want that. So in home brewing, what most of us use is an alkaline, which is PBW, to clean everything, and that just kills organic things. Then we use, after we rinse it, we use Star San, and Star San is an acid cleaner, and it's considered a no rinse cleaner. I like to rinse it out, but yeah, it's food safe, should we say, as long as you follow the instructions. But I've cleaned everything, and then what we do in home brewing a lot too is that we put that Star San in a water mixture so we can spray it on everything. So this has been cleaned and this has been filled with water. And for anyone who is brewing on this, I'm assuming you're not gonna get into brewing salts since things like that are custom water profiles. So just use spring water. I would not use tap water. You can use a Campden tablet, but don't, just don't even waste your time. Just buy yourself a gallon of nice spring water, and that's 128 ounces here in the US. And this, the measurement you need is 115 ounces. So you're gonna have more water left over anyways. And just pour it in here up to the 115 mark. You're done, you're good. Don't worry about your water. Okay, now what I did with this Star San sprayer before the video started is I sprayed all of this stuff. Sprayed everything, everything. I even sprayed down the yeast because there could be dust or dirt that's gotten on here in packaging, shipping, or you've left it open like I did for a little bit, and that bacteria or that type of infection could get into your brew and cause a serious problem. You don't want that. Trust me, you don't want that. So I say, let's get brewing. Okay, now instructions, right here. You got some information, and then your instructions are down here, and I'm gonna go over it for you, and we're gonna go step by step, make it really easy. First thing it says is prepare a clean iGulu keg and add purified water up to 116 ounce mark. I'm gonna tell you, use spring water out of a gallon jug or reverse osmosis. Don't use distilled, don't use straight tap water, just don't, trust me. You're gonna have a better beer if you don't do that. Just stick to your spring water or stick to your reverse osmosis. That's it. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and open this up. I have a little towel over here. I have everything sitting on that I've cleaned. And yes, make sure you clean that too. Clean everything. We'll set it over here. It says, and it's kind of backwards compared to the way I'm used to brewing in probably 99% of the world, but obviously they've done testings and they've decided what works best. So we're gonna follow those instructions. So first it says drip the hop extract into the water. Well, we have three. We have a bittering. So we're gonna take the bittering. I'm gonna see if I can open it without the scissors. And you know what? Yeah, I cleaned everything, but my hands have probably touched a few things since then. So yeah, it's, you know, what's that, error on the side of safety? It just makes things easy. And anything like that, I will leave a link down below, you know, but like I said, if you're not doing brewing, you're just doing it on here, the little one-step oxygen cleaner, that's very inexpensive. You just get that, you'll be good. But otherwise, if you're gonna be doing a lot of brewing or other types of brewing, then of course you want the PBW and the Star San. They're just go-tos in the industry. So now I'm gonna take the hop extract. Do not taste test this stuff. I've been there, I've done that. I don't recommend it. It is more bitter than you would ever imagine anything ever. And literally, I'm just squirting it in here. And let's see if we can get a little closer there. You can see it's kind of adding some weirdness to the water. It looks kind of like magic or a lava lamp. So you want to get all of that out of there because they've expected you to leave a little residual behind. So you don't want to really leave any extra behind. I would get all of it. And the IBUs on this is between 25 to 45. And yeah, I touched it. Yeah, I really want to taste test it, but I know better. I've done that, been there, done that. See, it's all foggy. Don't worry about it. You're fine. Just let it go. Okay, now we have the natural hops. aromatic extract. And this is Mosaic. Yeah, very, very cool. Mosaic is a very popular hop. My hands are sticky now because I got the hop extract on it. So we'll have to take a little tiny, ooh, that smells amazing. That is like literally I've just opened a big old thing of hops. Oh, and this is brown, almost like iodine looking. So, and I have seen hop extracts that are this color. This is what I would have expected on the first one, but had the first one not been a light color, I wouldn't have thought about it. Okay, let's make sure we get all of it too. Like I said, although it's a little harder for me right now because my fingers are very, very sticky. So what do? We spray our fingers down again. Wipe them off on that same paper towel and open the second hop extract. This is another Mosaic, nothing special. So we have two things of Mosaic. I think we can just have a hop water here. I mean, literally, it smells really good. Now, for those who don't like hops, which are very few, my wife, yeah, this may not be your choice for brews, but they have a Hefeweizen and they have an amber ale. The amber ale, I think, has a little bit of hops to it, but the Hefeweizen should be very mild. It's a nice wheat beer. And I saw recently they're getting ready to announce a stout, which is a nice dark if you like chocolate and coffee. There are a lot of people out there who prefer the darker beers and don't like the lighter, and other people who like, you know, let's do this since it's clean, that like the lighter, not the darker. And then there's a lot of people like myself who kind of go between both or prefer one over the other or like them both evenly. So yeah, so that's all in there and it's just kind of floating around. Now this is the part that's a little weird for me as a home brewer, is it wants me to add the yeast before I add the malt extract. Normally you would add the malt extract, then the yeast. But step 3 is yeast, step 4 is malt extract. Now it doesn't say anything about the sugar, but I know based on brewing that we're gonna add the sugar in there around the same time we do the malt extract. I'll probably add it first in the malt extract. So I'm gonna go ahead and I need scissors for this because I don't see a place that it's perforated. No real odor there. Yeah, I guess I really don't need to worry about spreading it evenly since we're gonna dump stuff on top of it. You just wanna make sure you get all that out of there. It's just a lot, if you've ever baked bread, it looks the same. It's a dry yeast, but it's usually a dry yeast that's specific to that type of beer or that style or just very specific to beer. We have a yeast that a lot of people use called USO5 and it's used for a ton of beers. And it's just a very neutral, clean brewing yeast. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put in the 3 packets of priming sugar. And if this video runs long, I will skip over a little bit of this priming sugar since I'm doing the same thing 3 times. There's 1. I will warn you with the priming sugar, which is just a type of corn sugar, and also the dry malt extract, they can get really sticky if you get them damp or get any kind of moisture on anything that they're touching. It is a fine type of sugar and it will stick to everything. Here's our next one. What the corn sugar is going to do, if you didn't watch the unboxing, is it's going to basically dry things out and raise the ABV. Yeast eats sugar and creates CO2 and alcohol. So the more sugar you have, the more alcohol you're going to have. And malt extract is made from malts, like barley's, you know, barley grain. But it has body to it. And because it is and it's not 100% fermentable. Sugar is, at least pretty close to 100%. So the key here is the sugar is going to be very thin and convert almost 100% to alcohol and CO2. Well, the malt extract is going to leave residual malt behind that's not fermentable and non-fermentable sugars. And the sugar would make this sweet normally. But because we're adding the hops are bitter. So you take sugar, sweet, and hops, which are bitter, and they balance each other. Now, if it's an extremely balanced beer, it's not going to be really bitter or sweet. But on something like an IPA, you change that balance just enough that the bittering stands out and the sweetness is a little more subdued, hence an IPA. If you're going for something more malty, like a stout, usually your bittering is still there, but the malts are so up there that they actually stand out more, and the bittering is just there to kind of balance things. It's all a balancing game, that's all it is. And when you hear balance, it doesn't always mean even. It means a certain way or another, but it's balancing. If you take one away, it's not gonna taste good. So, okay, so we have everything in here right now except for the malt extract. I just wanna let you see that. I'm trying to get it all away from the very top. That way when I cut it, I don't have to worry about any of it spilling out everywhere. Because like I said, this stuff is very sticky. It will get anything gummed up. It can be a real pain in the butt. And it's got a little, like almost like a dust because it's so fine. So you're gonna wanna pour this in very slowly and very easily. Okay, so what I'm seeing is the malt extract is starting to fall. I really want to stir this. You know what? I can use this. It does not say anything about stirring, but it's bothering me. And that's one of my big things when I tell people about brewing is, you know, sometimes you find things that work for you, go for it. It's all good. Okay, now I have some clumping in here and I'm not gonna worry about too much of the clumping. I just wanna stir it up, kind of get it. And the other thing I'm kind of doing here, which really hasn't been mentioned in the iGulu instructions, is when you have your, this is called wort. Yeah, you just made wort, you didn't even know it. But when you add malt extract or liquid extract, or you do some sort of what they call a mash, where you're taking the carbs and sugars out of a grain, and it's left behind in the water, that's called wort. And wort is a highly fermentable sugar-based or sweet mix of grains, and like we did, we added sugar, and the yeast will go through that and convert it to beer, because we make wort, yeast makes beer. So, but I'm oxygenating it. Yeast needs a fair amount of oxygen to reproduce and grow. It doesn't really need it so much to ferment, but it does need it to grow, and if it grows and reproduces before it starts to ferment, it's actually going to do a better job. Make sure it's nice and snug before you put it in. Okay, so yeah, we're done, almost. So that's on there. What do we have to do? We have a couple more things to do. We have to seal it. So let's take this, the little clamp, put it across. You wanna make sure it makes a nice, there we go. It's gotta get on top and bottom. Okay, hook it and pull it. It seems very loose. Did I miss something? No, I remember that thing being really hard to get off the first time. I guess that's it. I don't really have to do anything. It's good. Okay, there are a few more things we need to do. So we're gonna open this up. I'm gonna set the lid over here. I can pick it up from this now too, which is kind of nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna set it in here. Okay, now we have a few more things to do. We need to put the liquid dispensing piece on. I'm gonna go ahead and snap that on. It snaps right into the middle, not a big deal. Okay, ooh, yeah. I just learned something. Did we say first time we learn mistakes? Do not put that on first. Okay, I just learned a mistake, and it's good though. This lets me explain something else to you. So, I didn't think there was any pressure in here because we just put everything together. And when I put this on, liquid started shooting up out of it. Okay, so I can show you two things we can do as a precaution. First of all, if that happens to you because you forgot and you end up with any kind of liquid in here from the beer before you're fermenting it, take it out, clean it. That is gonna leave a very sticky residue that you don't wanna deal with later. You wanna clean it while it's still damp. Okay, so now we're gonna put this back in here. Okay, we have two things on here that's gonna prevent us from having a problem. And first of all, I'm gonna kind of clean it off again. Okay, the first one is we gotta put this hose in here, okay? So we lift this up, it's just got a magnet, we'll set it down, and you're gonna stick this hose down in here. It's not gonna wanna go. So what you have to do is you have to push your tap handle and it'll go way down in there. And push it as far as it'll go. Now let go of the tap handle. That's gonna seal it. Now bring this little restrictor back, and I'll tell you what this restrictor is for. It's got two features. One, it can reduce your flow. So it's restricting because you have a very short flow here, which can create a lot of foam. So by restricting it, and you can adjust it, you're gonna have to play with it a little bit, that's gonna help with foam problems. So you don't end up with a big foamy glass and no beer. But for now, we already have this part crimped, so it's closed. I'm gonna crimp this one all the way too. So it's closed. So I don't have to worry about beer shooting out. So we'll snap it on. Hey, no beer came up. Okay, I'm gonna push it down and we'll take the magnet / lid, snap it in place, put that on. The other item that we have to put on here, and we can kind of spin this. It's kind of cool that it spins around like this. There is a piece for CO2 and it tells us to connect everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect it. There is a little pressure relief valve, PRV. There is a little PRV valve here, and then there's the CO2. So kind of afraid of putting the CO2 on there because I really don't need it right now. And I swear it said I needed to put that on there. Close it up. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna start fermenting. So we say, we wanna do this, we're gonna hit RFID. We're gonna say, yes, we want the pale ale. We hit next. We look at all this and go, sure, let's brew. And there we go. I don't know if you can see that it turned red back here. I'm gonna pull this back a little bit so you can see it. It's gonna get warm, it's gonna brew, and we'll do the next after it's done brewing. Don't forget, like, subscribe, keep sharing, and thank you for joining us here at Bitter Reality Brewing. Cheers.